Hello, this is Neil McGee with the UVA School of Data Science with a quick little walkthrough about setting up git-bash and authenticating to GitHub using SSH keys, kind of all the setup steps you need to get started in a Windows environment. So we're looking at a virtual desktop here in Amazon that I just created. It's completely vanilla, which means there's no custom software installed at all. And so I just want to walk you through the whole process. So we go to git-scm. This is the official home for Git. And you go to the downloads page and you'll see, oh, it recognizes I'm in Windows. I click here and I happen to have a 64-bit instance that I'm on. Most modern architecture is 64-bit. So I'm going to click there for the standalone installer. And this little file gets downloaded in just a few seconds. And then I can open the file. That's going to open up Windows Explorer with that file running. And now I can go ahead and just kind of go through this installer little interrogative installer. And so almost all the defaults are just absolutely fine. I'm going to put an icon on the desktop. I could check for updates a lot if I want. I could add a git-bash profile to Windows Terminal. I think I'm fine without that. I'll call it Git in the Start menu. Use Vim, that's fine. Let Git decide. Yep, that's great. That's good. All great. So let's just continue all the way through all of these. We don't need experimental features. And then this will install. And so this is putting git-bash into my system, which consists of sort of a bash emulator, so I can use normal Linux bash commands. I've got all my Git software installed, so I can do all my Git pulling and cloning and committing and pushing and pulling and so on. And so that's what we want to set up here. The real goal is just that I could use this instance to connect to a repository, to clone it, and to work with it. So here I get some release notes. Maybe I'd read that if I took the time. So let me get out of that. So I have a git-bash icon. Let's go ahead and open that up. And I'm going to hold down Control and the plus key and make things a little bit bigger and a little more legible. And then expand this window out. And so this is great. We have bash installed. So I can say, date, and it'll give me the date. I can say present working directory, and it tells me I'm in the administrator's home directory. That's all great. I should also have git commands, and so if I press git, I can see all the subcommands that are ready to go. So that's super. So here's what I want to do. I need to connect to GitHub through some means of authentication. And they used to allow usernames and passwords. They don't anymore. They now have these more complicated tokens, and tokens can have different permission levels and so on. So instead of going that complicated route, we're just going to use a basic SSH key. And git-bash happens to have a key generator or a key pair generator built into it. And an SSH key pair is basically two keys that cryptographically go with each other. They sort of, it's almost like a key and a lock that are perfectly matched to one another using some long hashes and cryptography. And one half of them is called the public key, which you could share with the world. And we're actually going to share that with GitHub. And then there's the private key, which is much longer and much more complex. And that is to be very, very private. You don't want to share that with another person ever. You don't want to leave that around on a thumb drive or anything. So let's go ahead and create a key pair. And the way we do that is this built-in command, sshkeygen.exe. And it says, okay, generating a key pair here. Where would you like me to put it? And the default location is perfect. It's going to be in this hidden directory.ssh, and it's named id underscore ed blah, 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 blah. So that's the file. So I'll hit return. Would I like to use a passphrase with this? If I want some extra protection, I could lock this key so that I always have to enter a passphrase. I'm not going to do that. Not at all. So now, and then it gives me this little kind of a SHA fingerprint for the keys that it generated. And now if I ls in this directory, I will see that there's a little hidden directory called .ssh up in the top. And if I cd into that, you will see that there are two keys. So the private key, the first one, is 419 bytes. This is actually kind of on the short end of these things. They're normally almost a whole screen full. And if I want to look at the private key, then that's here. And so that's really good. So what I want to do is flip over to GitHub, and I'm going to just do that from my Mac side of this computer that I'm on right now. And let me pull up that page. 1 second. Okay, so I'm over in GitHub at my home page, so github.com/my username, but you could get there from anywhere in GitHub. You want to click up in the upper right at your little person icon and go all the way down to Settings. And then under SSH keys, click there, and you want to add a new key. So let's flip to the Windows machine again, and let's copy this key. And you'll notice it's made up of SSH with the ID, and then a whole bunch of long code, and then sort of a fake email address at the end. This is the administrator for this particular local machine. All of that's great and expected. And now I want to come over here and I say, Windows EC2 instance, and that's the name. That's what I'll call this computer that I'm adding the key on. And now I come in and I paste this, and this should be it should be one line, and we can see it's one line here. Depending on the size of your form or the length of your key, it might wrap, but it's always on one line. So let's add that key. And it wants me to verify that. Good, all done. So now we can stay in Windows. And from here, I'm in my SSH directory, so I want to get out of that. Actually, no, I want to go back into it. There's one other thing we have to do. The permissions for this private key are actually too open. And this is a weird little quirk of git-bash. Normally in a Linux environment, I'd be able to say chmod 700 to ID blah, 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 the private key, and I would get something changed here. But notice it didn't change at all between sessions, and that's because for whatever reason, SSH keys are a little more sensitive. So what I'd like to do is open up the Explorer to this current directory. And that's going to open up a Windows Explorer here. And then I want to select, and this is a really important step, select that private key, not the public, but the private key, 2-finger click or right click on it and get the properties. And now go to the Security tab. And I want to edit these. And basically, I just need to deny access for the system. So I want to edit and say System, deny full control, and apply that. So it asks me to confirm that I'm changing the permissions, and I say yes to that, I say yes to that, and OK to that. And now we should be all set. And again, even if you list out your contents, you're going to see nothing different in the POSIX bits here on the left. So don't worry about that. So now we're in a directory. Let's make a directory for projects. Let's cd into projects, and now we have a nice clean directory. Now hang on, let me get a Git repository link and we'll be right back. Okay, so I'm over in GitHub again, and I just want to grab a repository's code link, a clone link using SSH so that I can clone this repository. So just imagine this is your repo that already exists. You've already got some stuff going on and you just want to work with it from this Windows environment. So go to the code button, open that up and click on the SSH tab here. There's different ways to connect to the repository, but we're now going to use SSH. So I just copy that. We flip back over here, and now we just want to use the git clone command. Git clone, and then I'll paste this. And I hit return. Now the very first time I ever use this key communicating to GitHub, it's going to ask me, hey, here's the key fingerprint when I'm connecting. I haven't used this before. Is this good? Do I want to continue with this? Yes or no? You have to type the full word yes. This is very normal. And now there's two other little things I need to do before I can kind of be all set with Git and never worry about it again. I need to say git config, and I need to set two global settings. My user name, and I can just, this is my plain old name. And then the second is, user email. nem2p@virginia.edu. So I've now created a key. I've put my public key into GitHub. I've cloned my repository. I've set my 2 global configurations. I've changed the permissions of my key so that it can communicate nice and cleanly and securely with GitHub. And now I should have my repository copied. And I can see everything here that is the same over here. So that's all good. And now let's just give it a check. Let's just use nano and open up README. And I could come to the bottom and I could say, you know, this works from a remote Windows workstation. And I'll just save my buffer and save it again. And now I should be able to say git status. Oh, you have a change not yet staged for commit. So let's git add readme. Then let's git commit with a message. Testing from the Windows VM. And now let's push it. And that's where we really can confirm. Git push origin main is the branch that we're on. And we can see that indication here. Git push origin main, and it goes back. And if we refresh this page and scroll all the way to the bottom, we should see this works from Windows Workstation. So that's it. That's setting up git-bash, setting up an SSH key for Windows, modifying the permissions, setting up some global configs, cloning a repo, and pushing some changes back. Hope this helps. Thanks.